There you go. It's a good intro, I guess. Something a little bit original. Welcome back everybody. Matt here. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Beautiful sunny day out. It's a heat wave this week. First heat wave of the year. Brutally hot outside. Um yeah. So that's going on. That's fun. Um yeah, so the video today that Mercury is retrograde when you guys follow astrology, and I've been thinking a lot about my past, couple years, decisions I've made, what I've been through, what's led me to this point, being here right now, which I have to say is really a blessing for me to, be on my own in my own apartment from what I was doing before, which you know it was it's just some crazy times, and feeling like I'm running around, and I'm sure I'm not done yet. I'm sure whatever that was that um those experiences that I've had, we were like, I believe, are kind of preparing me or training me for something that I'm going to be doing later on in my life, or just trying to teach me lessons, which I really need. So your subconscious, I need to stop saying, because some things you don't know. I got to stop saying that. I've kind of went back. Another thing that I've gone back and listened to some of the videos, and some of my communication and the way I've been talking wasn't there. It's not, some of it's not really clear, and I kind of loop around some things. I tend to repeat some things. I tend to say, so I caught myself there. So that's not going to happen again. Well, not going to happen as frequently. Let's hope. um, so yeah, your subconscious, um, it doesn't rationalize what's good or bad. So there's a time last year, um, actually for the past 2 years, where I had the opportunity, and I ended up, saving some money up. And I also got access to some credits. And with that, um, I felt like, oh, like I had all this um, money to spend, all this credit that I could use. And, I had a fear, and I do still have this deep subconscious fear of not having enough. Like the money that I have saved, the money that I saved just didn't feel like enough. So, the first instinct was, well, let's try and make more with the money I have now. Unfortunately, those decisions were not the best decisions, were not the right decisions, and now looking back, I'm trying to piece together why and what my thought process was leading up to those moments, because I ended up losing most of what I had saved up, and then getting into debt. And that is the worst thing. That's one thing to lose, what you've worked hard for and what you've saved for. And then there's the other part of also getting into debt on top of that, to try and chase the same type of fear of trying to have, you know, more money. That's what happened. There's been I've had definitely some financial difficulties because I let my subconscious run wild with fears of not having enough. The money that I saw sitting, in my account after I was done working, especially, the the job that I had before, allowed me to save with very little expenses. And, I just thought at the end, I've saved a bit, but I don't feel like it's enough. I feel like, I ended up getting nervous, and that nervousness created an environment which I was subconsciously creating, and that led me to do some stupid stuff, do some things that now I'm looking back on and I really, really, really regret. And that's what happens when you let your mind kind of dictate, what your future is going to be. Because in my head, in that moment, when I ended up losing that amount to, I'm just going to put it, investments. In my head, they were investments that I was trying to make into financial markets. That didn't end up going well. So I mean, there's a whole list of stuff that I've tried to, you know, for to you know, sorry. There's a lot of stuff that I've thought about that, you know, no, you don't know. Pause for a sec. Let me figure. This is the beauty of just me doing this raw video. I'm not gonna edit this out. There's things you need to catch yourself in these moments. There's things that you need to, you know. it's a good, it's a good example. It's a good video of how not to communicate and catch yourself before you say things. um. So yeah, losing that money and getting into debt was not a good feeling, and I'm very, 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 very fortunate enough to have, family support, to have, um, connections. All right, we're back. Okay, let's finish off strong. Um, so any type of fear that you might be having, um, any type of worry, insecurity, uh, it doesn't, the more you think about it, the more you're going to be acting upon those fears and acting upon these insecurities you're feeling, which will lead you to those types of feelings for real. Like whatever kind of fear that you have of something or somebody, or, it could just be thoughts that, worries about somebody or something. Just be careful. Be careful where you direct that energy, and try not to fear, like, because that's the one thing, like, that I've learned is that, you know when I concentrated on fearing I'm not having enough, that's when I acted in those ways, which led me to lose pretty much most of what I worked for in those years, which, you know it's, you know after working the job I worked at, in a toxic environment, and the stuff that I did, to try and keep the place together when my supervisor bailed. If you guys don't know the story, go back on my other video and check it out. Just kind of a background story. I didn't want to get into specifics, just keeping stuff kind of on the down low, just because of the type of job I had. And it was a privilege. It was a privilege to work there. It was a very. I don't want to elaborate on this video. Just if you guys are interested, go back in my other videos. But so that's one of the big lessons that I thought about. I'm like, man, if I just didn't fear about not having enough, it would have been enough for me now. It would have been enough for me now, where, it's just I wouldn't have to worry about picking up second jobs. I wouldn't have to worry about, um, not being stable. Um, these are all things that, unfortunately, now have become my reality. I've had to, you know, uh, to try and work on the weekends now. I've had to try and find other ways of generating income, and I'm sure I'm going to succeed, because I am planning to succeed in moving forward and making a lot of money later on. And part of this channel is to kind of document that, so you guys can kind of see my progress, and for me to kind of look back on and say, okay, these were the mistakes, that I've made. This is the mindset I had at the time, and just forge on into the future. But Mercury retrograde, which is pretty much going on until I believe beginning of August, is just a good time to just reflect, dig deep, really dig deep, and find out kind of some things that have happened, and try to not make those same mistakes again. And those were costly. Those were costly. It really did suck to lose a lot of that hard-earned money to stupid investments. But I know in time that, with the headspace, with the mindset I have now, and me practicing not feeding into that fear, I know that things are going to turn around, which is all up to you. Like, a lot of people, I think, cling on to somebody or blame the current situation with the economy, blame our politicians and our leaders, but a lot of, your reality is self-inflicted. It's because of your thoughts. It's a lot of that is because of your thoughts. And that's where I went wrong. And I'm going to look back, I know for sure, and say, wow, those were turbulent times. Those were times where I had those thoughts, but I'm glad I don't have those thoughts anymore. And look where I am. And that's going to be one of these days. I'm sure of it. So, hope you guys like this little lesson. And any type of fear and insecurity you have, deal with it head on. Deal with that head on, and think to yourself why you're feeling this way, and try your best to try and forge ahead. Try to look for the positive, even in bad situations. I know this sounds very cliche. I'm sure a lot of people have said it, but it's a huge part of making progress, making real progress, making, pushing forward. And that's the thing. Like, you cannot give up. You cannot give in. And you have to, no matter what, even looking back now, I'm like, that was all for reasons now of, you know, these are all reasons that, sorry, pause. No, actually, no, I'm going to keep going. We're going to finish off strong, like I said. These are things that teach you stuff that you are going to make progress on, if that makes sense. With Mercury retro with Mercury retrograde, it's communication, everything like that is. Anyways, hope you guys like this little video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching this incredibly confusing, interesting, and yeah, see you guys in the next video.